Hey everyone, and welcome to Let's Pod This Live.
It's live.
My name is Andy Moore. I'm sitting next to Scott Melson.
What's up, man? How are you?
Good. I'm usually across from you. This is different.
I know I'm a little like we're out of our element here.
We are a little bit. So we are at Oak and Or tonight. Today is the 26th. It's a Tuesday, also a different day than we usually record, and it's election day. And hopefully all of you who listen already know this because you heard it last week. And so we are at Oak and Or for a live recording. And our first guests are already here seated across from us. Thank you for being here. Kayla and Anna from Localities. It's a podcast. It's a Twitter account.
Localities OKC.
OKC. Are there other Localities?
Not yet, but I mean, we're about to take over the world, y'all.
Oh, fair
Nice.
enough. Okay, well, we
Give us
should
time.
we should launch.
I like that energy.
We should launch a Localities and a Let's Fix This in every town
I love
We've
it.
envisioned it as a franchise.
as
Yeah.
a franchise. Great. You just need quality people
Exactly.
across the country, even the globe.
The globe.
Localites Shanghai. That's a long hashtag, but I think it could work.
It could work.
So-
Thank you so much for having us on, Andy.
Thanks for joining. We're gonna have to speak loudly. It's much different without my headphones on.
Yeah.
It's
So-
a little loud in here.
It is a little loud in here because it's a fun night. So, yeah, and I'll just start by saying thanks to Oak and Or, to Micah and the crew for having us here so that we could sit here and record and kind of meet with
100%.
folks. I understand that later we'll have Carrie Blumert
Yep.
is having her watch party. I also saw some kids walk by with happy 50th balloons.
Yeah.
I saw that too.
So
yes.
someone's having their 50th birthday here, and they don't realize it's election day, and there's going to be a big crowd of millennials here trying to watch election results.
It's
Maybe
it's
they'll
gonna be
get
a
done
live,
early.
It's gonna be
Maybe.
a lively night at Oak and Or, I think.
It could be.
Multiple goings on.
Yeah. So, Kayla and Anna, thanks for having me on a couple of weeks ago on your
Yeah.
podcast. I'm happy to return the favor. Tell us how I see you have your I voted stickers on today.
Of course.
What was your experience like at the polls this morning or this afternoon or whenever you went?
Well, I went this afternoon, so I had some presentations I had to do earlier today, and then I got to go vote at about 2 o'clock at my local polling station. And there was only like one other person in there when I was there, but the machine said like 700 ballots had been counted.
Right.
Nice.
So half of
So-
that then, because
right,
everyone
because
has
of
two
the
ballots.
2 ballots each person has.
Supposedly.
So
there were some
Right.
That was
reports.
at
I know. I saw that. People
Yeah.
not getting their state
Yeah,
question
some
ballot.
reports on Twitter today that certain people did
Drama.
not get both ballots.
Yes,
In
I heard
particular,
about
they
that.
didn't receive the state question ballot. And we don't yet know, it's too early to know, if that was because of ill-trained or unprepared poll workers or if there was something dubious afoot.
And I
I-
heard it
Because
was
it really-
isolated.
Yeah, the
It really
reports I
could
saw
be
were
either
pretty.
side, though.
yeah.
It could be people who didn't want people voting no, or people who didn't want people voting yes.
Right. The
Well, I
reports I
think-
saw were pretty that it was like just a couple places and they got it taken care of quickly.
And it is a lot, right? So there are Republican, there's Democratic, there's Libertarian ballots, then there's the state ballot. Independents get a Democratic ballot if they want it, but
Want
they
it.
could only get the state ballot if that's all they wanted. And so I
It
think
was a little confusing.
Right. We could do for some election reform in our state and make it a little easier.
Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
totally.
Well, I was really blown away. I showed up at about 10:30. I thought I'd, wait, let the work crowd get through. I was working from home today, so I just took my sweet time and was like, about 10:30, that'll be the sweet spot before people go at lunch. No, I had to wait in line for 30 minutes at my polling place.
That's awesome.
like
Now-
15:30. It was great.
Wow.
So can I ask? Do you guys are your precincts? Are they here, kind of in the like urban core part of the city? Are they more like on the outer edges of the city or the metro?
I'm just a couple miles west of here.
Couple
And
miles
I'm
west
outer.
here?
I'm up Deer Creek area.
Up in the Deer Creek area. Okay,
great.
so about 400-ish, 350 where you were in the kind of around the metro area, and then up in Deer Creek, you said.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Most of my fellow voters, though, tended to look over the age of 50. There was
Sure.
maybe one or two people who looked like they were 20-something.
Sure.
And it was great to see us all out there, but it definitely skews a little older
Yeah.
out in my area.
Which we kind of expected, right? I
Sure.
mean, that's usually who turns out to vote. So,
Yes.
Especially
mean-
during the day.
Yeah.
And this definitely, what you guys are saying, I think matches up with what we saw throughout the day today, which was pretty high turnout. I know my polling place this morning, I voted around noon. My wife said there was a line there this morning, and then it was significantly higher when I voted at noon than it was at 5:30 or 6 in the last couple of elections. And then we visited another polling place over near the Health Sciences Center campus, and it was similar to what you were saying, or to what you were saying, Kayla, that we got there. I figured it was after lunch, but no, we waited in line for probably 15, 20 minutes.
Well, and I think a lot of people's employers were letting them leave early to vote.
Yeah.
Well, they're required
you?
to let you have 2 hours to
Right.
vote.
Right. Provided you need it if you can't get to the polls. So, like, polls are
Gotcha.
open from 7 to 7.
Right.
If you work like a 7A to 7P, they
Well,
have
I
to
got
give you
my 2
before
hours,
2
and I
hours.
work 8 to 5.
I was
There
going to
you
say,
go.
I
That's good.
actually heard about
Good.
quite a few people who are 8 to 5 that got to take their 2
That's
hours,
good,
and I've
yeah.
never
The
noticed
state
that from
mandates
other
it
ones.
for state employees.
Right,
Ah.
right.
That's
Well, and
awesome.
I emailed my staff yesterday, told them I was going to be off today, and then I said, listen, we're allowed or we're required to flex and give you up to 2 hours. That doesn't mean it's paid leave. Like, you may have to take time off to go, but this is really important and this is a big deal. And
You should do it.
I mean, most of them, I think, know that I support civic engagement.
Well, this, I think, definitely speaks to kind of, Andy, you and I were talking a few minutes ago, what are things, as we've got polls closing here in about 50 minutes, what are some things that we're going to be watching for? I know one of the big questions I have tonight is, what are the turnout numbers? Like, where are we as compared to 2014 or even compared to the last presidential primary
At my
election?
polling place, they said at the time I was there, 50% of the registered libertarians had already voted.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
But that could
But
be a difference of numbers, right? Like, if there's only 6 of them and 3 of them showed
Sure.
up, that was a lot. It is a
Sure.
lot
I didn't
more
get
than that,
that
but
number.
yeah, exciting.
What are you guys watching for as we kind of see results come in tonight?
I'm
What's most on
watching
your
for
mind?
788.
Sure.
That's going to affect a lot of things, and I know that's the cop-out answer. Everybody's watching for that.
She
but
works in healthcare.
yeah.
Sure. Oh, that's very cool.
Yes,
Right.
and I have juvenile arthritis. This is something my arthritis doctor's been talking to me about since I can remember.
Sure.
I dabble in CBD oils to cure that, as opposed to taking.
Did you say you dabble?
Sure.
Well, I'm trying out different ones right now.
Do you
Oh,
dab
okay.
it on?
Yeah.
I know zero about CBD oil, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Well,
I
and-
should learn more.
Well, and it's hard to learn about them because every shop you go into, they'll tell you something different, and
Right.
that they kind of have that thing that people have been a little worried about 788, the whole snake oil. They've got
Right.
like this giant wheel, and they're like, spin it, it helps all these things, and you're like, that's not
not the way it
how
works, right.
things work.
That's there used to be a radio host, nationally syndicated, the Bob and Tom Show. If you guys are
Yeah.
familiar,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Tom would always say that he felt like medical marijuana, that lobby could help itself if they would call their products by more traditionally pharmaceutical names, right? Things called sticky icky or like
Right.
Elmo's funkweed. Like, those things
Right.
don't
Right.
sound medicinal, and so people are suspicious.
Green Giant.
Right,
That's
yeah.
valid.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think names of pharmaceutical drugs don't sound great either.
No.
That's true. I mean,
They're pretty scary.
some of them are. Some of them are just comical.
Well,
Some
and
of them
then-
are just
Boniva
literally
makes
random letters
Every-
thrown together,
Yes.
like on a
That's true.
dartboard.
So there's like, it's really highly regulated. Scott's a doctor, you know this, but
That's
like,
true.
it's really highly regulated about how they can even name
talk
things.
about
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still think Boniva makes me giggle a little bit every time, I'll be honest.
Well, and that's so.
ready.
Levitra
So-
also.
Or is that Traceba?
I
I
take
forget.
I don't know.
They
I
all
take
sound the
some
same.
of, some of those weird things though. Like myself,
Right.
my doctor's prescribed one that caused me. I have holes in my cornea now. Like a totally legal arthritis medication that they had me on for 6 months. It was not originally made for that, and they were like, "Go to the eye doctor in 6 months." And I went, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you've got like the dark holes in your cornea. Stop taking this immediately."
Oopsie.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. Like that was okay for me to take
right.
prescribed." And then I take Celebrex, and you watch those commercials, and it's
Yeah,
all
they're
celebrate, celebrate. But then they go to the end, and they're like, "May cause death."
Right, yeah.
That's
right.
right.
The
It's
list
casual.
of possible negative side effects is always lengthy
Really
and
insane
terrifying.
and scary.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, and I think some of that is they have to report anything that happens during trials.
Right.
So I did some medical studies for money when I was in college, like many college students do. And
Valid.
And
I was just doing these for free. Man, I could have got paid to do that.
yes, you could. I slept at a lab and got paid for sleeping. It was great. I was part of the placebo group. So part of that was one of the studies. Somebody allegedly tripped and fell and broke their arm in the office while they were there for a visit. Nothing to do because there was no medication involved. They just tripped and fell. And so one of the possible side effects was broken arm. And I was like, "What's that about?" And she was like, "Well, this lady tripped and fell and broke her arm. And since she was here on our time, we have to report it as a possible side effect." And I said, "Did she take anything?" No, she just fell." I was like, "Well, that's a huge
That's
flaw in the
insane.
system."
Yeah. No, some of the ways that the kind of post-marketing reports, those things get tossed into side effects are really frustrating, especially because, I think for the most part as physicians, we do our best to educate patients about what are the potential side effects, but we try to say here are things that happen commonly, or here are things that are rare, but if they happen, they're really, really serious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they just released a study recently that said 2/3 of medications people are on have a side effect of depression or suicide.
Right. Well, and the other thing that is hard sometimes, I think, that doctors forget to talk about, and that I think can sometimes even be hard for patients to understand too, and it can be hard for doctors to understand, quite frankly, is that I tell my patients any medicine can do anything to anyone. Right, so if you feel like you're feeling, you're having a symptom, and it started the day you started taking this medicine, that doesn't mean that it's a side effect from the medicine, but it certainly is something that we should
keep
consider.
an eye on. Yeah, about for sure.
Talking about State Question 788, one of the things that I don't know that this will have anything to do with kind of being able to predict whether it passes or not, because we'll kind of get the information at the same time. But I'm really curious to see what the breakdown between early and absentee voting. What the breakdown of yay and nay is on the early and absentee vote versus people who voted today.
Right.
Because I think a lot of those early and particularly the absentee votes were cast
before the no campaign ramped up?
The no campaign made their big ad buy. In fact, even we just that was just on Twitter, according to the most recent FEC filings, they dropped 105 no to SQ88 dropped 105,000 in the Oklahoma City media market yesterday.
Yesterday. But I mean, that assumes people are going to see the ads between yesterday and today.
But who hasn't already made up their mind on that by now, too?
Yeah.
And they've spent so much money in the last 7 days, and I don't think it's going to be worth it.
What this tells me is that we're in the wrong business.
Yeah, true story.
We're in the business of doing good and trying to inform people, and they would argue they are too. And I would tell them, you shouldn't have spent $100,000 yesterday. Maybe get ahead of this a little bit. However, I think Pat McFerrin is in charge of the no campaign, or at least one of the no campaigns. Smart dude, cool guy. Definitely a established and educated politico.
There are a lot of private interests who don't want it legal, and a lot of that money is funding our state representatives.
Sure. The Boniva lobby. You could call them that.
Well, and if we can circle back for a second, something you said earlier with just how confusing it was for who gets what ballot. I know that's something I asked you to talk about on our show specifically.
Right.
The whole idea of closed primaries or semi-closed primaries. Independents can vote with Democrats.
Right.
But all of that, it was really hard for me to pick some of the people I wanted to vote for because I've been so inundated with ads and social media and the signs. The people I'd been like, oh, I identify with them, weren't on my ballot.
Right.
Again, I know this always happens, but that is so frustrating to me.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the reality of a two-party system.
But not everywhere has closed primaries. I mean, yes, it's a two-party system, but in an ideal two-party system, I can vote for whichever party I want,
and they're just
no matter where
that
I'm
person
registered.
makes it to the final ballot.
Right.
Yeah.
And last week, or week before last, in the state of Maine, which is admittedly very different than Oklahoma,
voting.
They have ranked choice voting, and so they used ranked choice voting, and they voted on it to vote whether or not to continue using it. And they thought that the people thought it was too confusing, and the voters would vote like, this is too much, let's not do it. And in fact, it was ratified to continue, which tells me voters are a lot smarter than legislators might give them credit for.
And to your point, I actually just saw on Twitter, hey, OK Elections, which is the Oklahoma State Election Board, what should I do if a polling location denied a ballot to an independent, even when he specifically asked for a Democratic ballot? So there's been at least a few episodes or instances, I should say, of ballot shenanigans. We should make a hashtag, ballot shenanigans, taking place today.
That's a good hashtag. I'll take that.
Yep.
Because to give people the benefit of the doubt, it's probably not malicious. It's just somebody who wasn't paying attention during training and didn't realize. But that's still, it's confusing. I get it.
I agree.
And if that independent didn't know their rights and the laws well enough to ask and call them out,
Right.
Yeah. All right. Any other burning issues on your minds, on your hearts, as we look towards election results here in about 40 minutes?
Governor is really important for me.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just curious to see how it shakes out, because with so many Republicans and then just the two Democrats, it's just I know Drew's projected to win for Democrat, but I'm just really curious to see how much support Connie does get.
Yeah.
Because she has really led a grassroots effort for several years.
I was going to say, she started
True.
out way sooner. I knew her name
Yeah.
long before I knew
And so
her.
I'm just kind of curious to see like how that ends up looking, because she's done a lot for this state, and I know that she probably would still plan to do something should this not happen. So
Do you have any predictions for the night?
Oh, Drew, for sure.
Okay.
I feel confident in that. And then I don't know, can there be a runoff in the Republican?
Yes.
There
Or
will
probably.
be.
There will be?
There-
Okay, so
I-
Lamb and Cornette.
You heard
Okay,
it.
that's your prediction?
You heard it here first.
Yeah, there
Except
will
that
be.
everyone's talking about it.
I think we're going to be surprised by how much Kevin Stitt gets of the vote.
Yeah, I think whoever's running his campaign, especially his social, I will say they're doing an excellent job.
They targeted me for ads on my Shopkick shopping app.
I don't
the
know what
last
that is.
2 or 3 days. So you earn points by shopping in stores and scanning barcodes and watching videos. And his governor ad showed up in that.
That's
and
So
I
that means
was
they're
like,
really trying.
who
That's good
even
thinking.
knows that you
Right.
can do? I've only ever seen national ads in that. That was the first local ads I've
Interesting.
ever seen. And so I'm with you there. Whoever's running his campaign is digital savvy.
Well,
yeah,
and he's
I have a,
raised
I have
the
a
most
hunch of who
money.
it is. I'm going to find out. That's really
Yeah.
great. That's really good.
It was really cool.
As someone who works in digital marketing, I appreciate your feedback on that, because you know that's like in your space, right?
It is, yeah. And that's the only place that he got me. But it was like yesterday morning I saw it, because I always check my app and get all my points when I get up in the morning.
And that's right when you needed to see it to vote for him, right?
Well, he's a Republican, and he wouldn't let me vote for him even if I wanted to.
Yeah.
To circle back to my original issue.
Yeah, the closed primary is really frustrating.
Well, I like to think that many of us are beyond having to stay on partisan lines all of the time, like especially millennials.
Exactly. And it encourages that
Yeah.
when we should be discouraging it.
Right. Well, and
Right.
especially when you consider how traditionally, anyway, low primary turnout is.
The more votes, the better, you would
Yeah,
think.
yeah. Now, something that's kind of interesting. There's been some speculation that the reason Governor Fallon elected to put SQ 788 on the ballot here was to try and avoid driving turnout in November by people that were motivated to pass it. What would be really interesting is if that ultimately changed who some of the nominees are, right? Like if driving turnout in the primaries for people maybe that are pro state question 788, maybe they tend to vote for a more moderate Republican in the primary as opposed to someone who's real conservative. So maybe it avoids driving turnout in the general election, but it may.
Have
I wonder if
skewed
it
that primary.
could affect who gets elected in some of the primary elections. Well, guys, can you tell us a little bit about the Localites podcast? Kind of what you guys talk about. What for those who haven't heard, what do you guys do on Localites?
Well, we are a weekly podcast in partnership with KOSU and The Spy, and we talk about local events and new restaurants, businesses, things happening in Oklahoma City metro area.
Yeah, we have that weekly show. Then we also have really awesome mini-sodes that we've recently rolled out. We're about to hit our 1-year anniversary, August 3rd.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And our most recent mini-sode featured Andy. So
Holla.
we had him on to really, just talk about the mysteries of the election process in Oklahoma and talk about all of these primary elections. We've also had on people who have maybe been on our show before for a bigger event when they have a smaller event happening. Our other most recent big episode was Barkeep Supply, which is about to be opening up in Midtown. Give a little
Awesome.
shout out to Julia. Yeah.
Nice.
Any day now, we'll be announcing the grand opening. So really tapping into, what's happening here in Oklahoma City and sharing that with the general public who might not know until a couple months after it happens.
I think
Very cool.
if you guys ever have FOMO or just general envy of someone who gets to go to soft openings, you should definitely follow Localites. That is me. I'm always like, man,
We've
look,
heard that recently, actually.
there are restaurants that you guys have been to I haven't even heard of yet.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I thought I was hip on this stuff, but not
That's
at all.
why it's so hard to keep up with everything
It
going
is.
on and
Right.
what is opening and how far away they are and what's closed, because Things
Yeah.
close all the time too.
That's
and
another
That's
big
true.
thing that we talk about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whether a new concept opens up in that place or it closes down indefinitely. And so we really appreciate our network of everyone out there. If you guys want to contribute to our network and make sure that we're in the know, you can follow along and shoot us a message at Localities OKC on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we're localitesokc@gmail.com. You can reach out to us directly there.
Excellent. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on. Good to see you guys. Kayla, I know that you've been to several events. Anna, I think you've been to some of our events as well. But I can think of 2 occasions where Kayla just showed up and was like, what can I do? And just started working the table and handing out buttons. And I was
Awesome.
like, okay, great. Thanks for just jumping in there. So.
Speaking of, you still owe me a mini button whenever you have time.
Oh, I do. I have them in the trunk right now. I'll go get you one here. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back with whoever our next guest is.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, we're back here at Okanor for our live podcast. Let's pod this, Andy and Scott. And up next, we've got some folks from Generation Citizen, one of our partner organizations, and just good people in their own right. Amy Curran, how are you?
I'm great. I'm
Who
great.
do you have with you today?
So I have with me my board chair, Madison Malone McLaughlin. Hi, guys.
Hi, Madison.
And I have Timothy Crisp, who is one of our first Generation Citizen Democracy coaches, now running a campaign for another Generation Citizen Democracy coach.
Nice.
Really?
Happy Election Day, folks.
Happy Election Day.
And then I have Gregory Samuel, our advocacy fellow for the summer.
Oh, that's right.
Awesome.
Yes, hello,
Hey.
everybody.
So you get us all.
This is excellent. I wish we had more microphones. This is tremendous. So it sounds like someone that was with Generation Citizen, a democracy coach, so a college student,
Correct.
is now running for elected office.
Yes, Daniel Pay is running for state
Okay.
representative out of Lawton.
Yes, I
Awesome.
feel like I've met
he's
him
a Republican
somewhere.
out of Lawton
Okay.
Okay.
and was at OU. He was a democracy coach for us and is now running for office, although he doesn't have why we have his campaign manager here tonight.
Right.
Is because he did not have an opponent in the primaries.
Okay.
Super.
All right.
Excellent. Well, so Scott and I were driving around today talking to candidates, voters, supporters, people with signs, anybody we could talk to, and then just other voters. And asking them, the question I'm going to ask you is, what kind of results are you guys looking at? What races specifically? What issues are you really kind of paying attention to tonight?
I mean, obviously, there's only one state question, so we're sort
Sure.
of paying attention to that.
Sure.
Sort of.
After
I mean, I've heard about it. It's kind of important.
Yeah, well, after there were 7 or 9 or however many there were,
That's
one
true.
seems like.
It gets all the attention,
Yeah, it
right? It's
gets-
like the
yeah.
firstborn. Yeah. That's fair.
But I think we're also looking at just like our local officials. I think definitely the ones the educators are running for. I always like a good upset. I hate to say it, either party. I don't know. What
Sure.
else are you all looking for in the outcomes today?
I think a big outcome that we're looking for is seeing the voter turnout in Oklahoma increase.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time that we're seeing the voters of Oklahoma frustrated to the extent of going to the polls now,
Right.
where they're ready to
Right.
see a change. They've been doing their research. I think it would be nice to see the numbers on like online research of candidates
Right.
for today,
Right.
and if numbers have increased from the past, because the Oklahomans are ready to see a difference. They want to elect the people who are going to fight for their rights, and that's probably the biggest outcome that I think we're looking for as a state right now.
I was excited because I had the opportunity to potentially vote for a woman for every office but one today.
Wow.
Which is amazing. It's just amazing. So exciting.
To go along with that, I think that just generationally, I'm 40 this year.
Congratulations.
And, yeah, I know. I've crossed the threshold.
There's somebody
but-
here having a 50th birthday,
I know.
so
Thank
you
you.
are
Thank
a
you.
spring
I
chicken,
am a
Amy.
yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. But I got to vote for a few of my really close friends and peers that are also not just running for office, but running really, really competitive races. And so that's really exciting too.
Right. So, Amy, you and I met a couple of years ago when Let's Fix This had just started and you were just starting Generation Citizen. Were you politically involved before that?
To some extent. I voted.
Okay. That's not nothing.
No. I voted. I was fairly politically involved. I would say I did not get that in the weeds with local elections.
Sure.
I was more looking at national elections, and that's one of the things that I think I've come to realize as I'm getting older and just as things are changing, that the more local, the more impact you have.
That's right.
And it's also getting to the point now where I am really hesitant to vote for anyone that I don't personally know, because you can say whatever on your commercials, but when you actually know them, you run into them around town, you can hold them accountable to a whole new level that you can't when you're just seeing their ads.
Right. So this is one of the reasons that I started Let's Fix This, right, is that I believe that if we have personal relationships with our elected officials, it changes the dynamic a little bit, right? And I had some friends that are in office then and still now, and some of them I was close to, and I can talk to them and find out some more about what's going on, like what information they have, why they voted the way they did. Now, some of those people I feel like are different now than when I knew them, right? Like things have changed, so that's a little disconcerting. But at least I have that relationship, and if the chips are really down, like I know that's someone I can call in a pinch. And I would love for every Oklahoman to know their state rep and their state senator by name and by eyesight, and ideally for them to know you as well.
Absolutely. I think that's really important. And I think, there were several groups that are starting up. One I'm supposed to invite you to tomorrow night, so I'll see what you're doing. We'll put you on the spot here.
Okay.
But there's a group that's doing a porch party kind of concept at Sheri. Yeah.
Sheri, she's down I've known Sheri for years.
Yeah, so they're doing
She's going to be on with us here in a little while, I think.
Oh, cool. Well, then I won't share all of the details. But I do think, the whole concept behind that is to stop just talking to your neighbors about your complaints about the state or your complaints about the city, but talk to your neighbors about your vision for change and how you can be a part of it and make it a little bit more meaningful.
Yeah, that's super exciting.
And I see that the youthful generation right now is stepping up to do that, recognizing that need to not just be surface level involved, recognizing what the pamphlet says or the TV commercial says, but getting that personal standpoint with our representatives, getting involved in walkouts or in protests up at the Capitol for a women's march, and walking in to speak with these representatives to have that face-to-face connection. Because we've lost that. We've now become a away from me up in an office representation rather than you're down in my district face-to-face in front of me representation.
Right.
And a generation of citizens is coming around to change that.
Yeah. And I think the importance of that relationship, that face-to-face, I know my legislator and they know me. I don't think it can be overstated how important and how valuable that is. Like that, there are issues where that can move the needle, right? There are issues where maybe your legislator is not an expert on this particular policy. Maybe not a lot of people are paying attention, but it's what you live in. It's what you work in. It affects your life every day. You make that phone call, you have that cup of coffee, that can change a vote, particularly at the local level.
And I think that we as Oklahomans have to recognize our civic duty in that nature, to step up and involve ourselves in that rather than sitting back and just talking about it. Where is our action and our will and drive and ambition to change what is occurring?
Totally.
I just saw a tweet from Jill Castilla at Citizens Edmond, who sponsored our new T-shirts that Scott and I are wearing tonight.
I love them.
And we dropped one off for her earlier today, and she's got it on and tweeted a photo of herself with it, which is pretty exciting.
Very cool.
Go ahead, Amy.
Oh, well, I was going to tell you all that one of the cool things that we did today was we had some of our, Generation Citizen moles out. Stole the idea from you a little bit, but also we are just a lot of eager people wanting to know what's happening and what young people are showing up. What are they saying? Why are they there? Obviously to vote, but beyond that.
Right.
So Gregory spent the day in several different polling places talking to young people.
Excellent.
So anyway, I'm curious because he just walked in as we were starting. I have no idea what he learned today.
Well, it was a really interesting experience. Just going out, talking to people, letting people just express their feelings and their opinions about how they felt going to the polls. And one of the most just interesting things I heard, it was from an older black lady. I don't know, I forgot her name, but she was like, if you want young people to vote, give them something to vote for. And that really hit me hard. I was like, okay.
Man, that's good.
Yeah, like this is one of the elections that I see a lot of young people coming out and just really feeling passionate about at least something. And I feel like that's really rare to have within a election season, to have a question, a state question, or anything on the ballot that a young person can actually be so impactful and really creating change. So
that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So we talked to a few voters today, and it was, for most of them, it was hours after they had voted. But the thing I think we heard was maybe not sage advice like that, but just the perception that people were turning out more than they do for a normal gubernatorial election, for sure. And then there's certainly some excitement, some interest around, state question 788, I think, especially for young folks, and maybe for baby boomers as well. But just a different set of sort of engagement kind of across the board, which is, to me, very exciting. That's why we do this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm curious, because I've also been wanting to ask Madison this. So we had a project that may or may not have started with legalizing medical marijuana a couple of semesters ago. And it turned into actually a really incredible project about criminal justice reform. And I think that I'm noticing our young people are really connecting the two issues.
Yep.
And when we have addressed it to some extent, but not to the point that most young people want to see criminal justice reform addressed. They see 788 as something that's really positive in that way. So Madison is a public defender, and I'm just curious, what are your thoughts about that? Do you think that has an impact? How do you feel about, your clients and all of that?
That's a big question.
It is a big question, and it's a big question also because I work in drug court, so I work with drug addicts every day, all day. So while I support medical marijuana and voted yes on 788, I say that with the caveat of it can negatively impact plenty of my clients.
Sure.
However, I think people going to jail for substance abuse is crazy, and I think that society is finally starting to catch up to that and saying these people have a disease and a disease of addiction, and we don't put people with diabetes or heart disease in jail for being sick.
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma still has a long way to go in this regards, but I think, we'll see what happens tonight, but from the sense that I've gotten around town today and the past couple of days is that people are starting to see it that way and to see that it is not some evil thing that can only ruin people's lives and that there are benefits to it.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's really great to hear. I used to work with mental health court in Oklahoma County, which is a great program, and it's terribly underfunded. It has huge outcomes, just like drug court.
Yeah.
We're we could change people's lives, or we could lock them up.
Oh, yeah.
I guess we'll just lock them up.
And lock them up and spend
4 times as much?
Yeah.
Right. It's bananas. And so this kind of legislation, there's certainly, I think we all agree, maybe it's not a well-written bill, but the spirit of the bill to move towards a world where marijuana is legal, right? That's arguably what we're doing, and I think that kind of thing could really help alleviate the burden on the court system, the burden on the criminal justice system, stop wrecking some people's lives. About, like, I had a client years ago. Our listeners know I'm a licensed professional counselor, and a guy that like couldn't get a job because he'd had a couple of convictions for marijuana possession. And at the time, I mean, it was legal in Colorado already, and he was like, man, in other states, this is not a thing. And now I can't get a job anywhere. I've lost my car. I can't get a job. And I was like,
well, and this gets to, let's say that 788 passes, and then let's say in a couple of years we have legal recreational marijuana. A big question that the legislature is going to have to deal with is, what do you do for all of these people that have convictions on their record for something that's no longer a crime? And they're still barred from professional licenses. They're still barred from job application. Like, it still has devastated their life, even though it wouldn't today. And I'm curious to see what, if any, kind of action we'll get from the legislature on that regard if 788 passes. I suspect not much, but I could be wrong.
I think we're feeling that a little already with it, drug possession being now a misdemeanor, and a misdemeanor's collateral consequences are a lot different than a felony's collateral consequences.
Sure.
And we have people who were arrested June 30th who were charged with a felony, and someone arrested July 1st who was charged with a misdemeanor. And I've had clients who are like, this is a misdemeanor. I'm like, actually, unfortunately, it's not. It happened 2 months too soon.
Right.
And we're going to have to deal with that too.
Right.
super.
No, go ahead.
Well, I think it also brings, with our first debate that we all co-hosted with the labor commissioner.
Right.
I mean, it goes down to, this big issue that everyone's so enthusiastic about. One way or the other, every other race comes back to that. I mean, the labor commissioner ultimately will decide, do some of these licenses get, approved or not.
Yeah. Maybe one last thought here. We're going to wrap up, and our next guest just walked in the building, so we'll step over. So maybe let's end on a note. Could Amy or someone tell us a little bit about Generation Citizen?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Generation Citizen is a national civic education nonprofit. We're the largest action civics nonprofit in the country. We've been in Oklahoma for about almost 24 months, and we are in Oklahoma City, we are in Norman, we are in Moore, and we are now expanding to Enid, to Chickasha, and
That's
to Del
your
City.
hometown.
It is my hometown.
That's
a prophet
exciting.
in my own hometown.
That's
We'll see how that goes.
The prodigal son, daughter returns.
Yeah, right. But so essentially we work with students to help them build their knowledge and their skills so that they can participate fully within the process of our democracy. Whether they're 18 and able to vote or not, they're still citizens, and they need to know how to participate, how to get involved. And so we're there in the classrooms working with government teachers, U.S. history teachers, to help them get those skills.
Excellent. Hey, thanks so much, everybody, for being here. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
You guys have some fried chicken. Enjoy yourselves. It's 7 o'clock right now, so election results
should have results
begin
start
to
rolling in.
start
It's
rolling
getting
in.
exciting.
I want to see which station is the first one to call an election with 1% of precincts reporting.
Oh, please. I feel like if all the work that we've done, like if that's one thing, if we could have a precinct without 3% of the vote,
Right.
then I will feel like my job is done.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Let's just call a spade when it's actually a spade. Counter chickens, whatever your cliche is. So, all right.
All right. Thanks for
Thanks so
having
much
us.
for having us. So up next is Brett Dickerson with Oklahoma City Free Press.
Yeah.
How are you, sir?
Yeah, fine. I've been out running around all day, and
Yeah, what's your day been like in the media?
well,
I feel like, so we've been out all day driving around the city doing Facebook Lives and Instagram stories and all this stuff. I feel like I may have a very small taste of what you guys do on election day.
well, I don't try to chase elections too much. There's just one of me right now, so there's only so much I can do. So targeting, I really try to target things. Today I just did two opposing corners of Senate District 40 and then Senate District 30.
Oh, those are great.
Big
races.
on the opposite corners, because
sure.
one of the things I was wanting to talk to them about was just ask people about was if they're aware. When I was down by Lake Overholser, in Senate District 30, down in that corner down there, that heavily gerrymandered district, one of the things that I asked people about was, are you aware that you're voting for the same Senate district candidates as people in Nichols Hills are right now?
Yeah.
Did they have any idea?
They were stunned, and people when I went up to Nichols Hills, up there to precincts 99 and 30 up there.
Sure.
That was like precinct number 5 down there.
Yeah.
And then later when I went north, one of the places I stopped at was at All Souls Episcopal Church, where 99 and 100 were voting, and asked people up there, are you aware that you're voting for the same people that people down by Lake Overholser are? And that, on a map, people that live in rural areas where they drive 100 miles and don't even think about it.
Yep.
They don't see, urban people see, think, God, look at all the neighborhoods that crosses.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But rural people just look at a map and go, oh, well, yeah, that's not very far, like that.
That's really interesting, like two different perspectives from one district.
Right, so I pulled up the map of Senate District 30, which happens to be the district that I live in.
Oh, yeah, that looks
And
totally
that is
looks
the
totally
most
normal.
heavily gerrymandered district in Oklahoma City.
So
I plan to write about that a lot more as we get closer
Excellent.
to redistricting.
I look forward to seeing it. It's so it looks like a letter C, and it starts up with the village, and it even goes up near Quail Springs Mall, comes across, includes all of Lake Hefner, where no one lives.
Right.
Then loops.
All those dead people that died in Lake Hefner.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then it loops down. It's from MacArthur to Rockwell, so 1 mile wide.
Right.
And it goes from, what is that? Looks like.
Crosses a part of Bethany, East Bethany.
From Britain down to like 28th. And then into Bethany, most of Bethany over to Lake Overholser. Includes part of the lake, but not all of Lake Overholser.
Yeah.
And then runs over into Cleveland neighborhood, which is at 23rd and May, where I live.
Cuts across back to the east then.
Yeah, and and then a little bit farther, and it's just a weird. Now this
makes in terms of the city's neighborhoods and the sections of the city and the different urban issues, the things that I hear them coming to City Hall with when I cover City Hall. It makes absolutely no sense.
Right. Well, and you and I were driving. We were driving north on 50th and May today, and we were saying.
Yeah.
You asked the question that only one political nerd could ask to another: is when you're driving around the city, do you ever wonder what state representative or state senate district you're in?
Right. Yeah.
And I said I do all the time, but there's absolutely no way to know when you're just driving through town. Like
the House districts tend to be more kind of contiguous.
Right.
In terms of parts of the city.
Yeah. Right.
But when you get to the Senate districts, even Senate District 40. Which is the one where I went from Maranatha Baptist Church down by Lake Overholser all the way up to Old Souls Episcopal Church.
Oh, sure.
Those were the two corners of the SD 40.
Right.
And still, when I asked people in both places, are you aware that these other guys are voting on the same people you are? They were stunned, just completely stunned.
So that's Senate District 30 that we just mentioned, that's shaped like the letter C, was formerly held by David Holt, who's now the mayor of Oklahoma City. Senate District 40 is currently held by Irvin Yin, and it is a hotly contested district. It's one of the districts that Democrats believe they can flip this.
So they've got a good chance to.
Series,
Yeah, two really hardworking candidates, Danielle Ezell and Carrie Hicks.
Right.
And I'm out hitting some watch parties tonight, and that's kind of what I've been doing today. I've been focusing on those two Senate districts, just talking to people in those two districts right there.
So as you're talking to people, we're one of the big things that we're watching for tonight. As I'm clicking refresh every 30 seconds on the county election page.
Yeah.
We have no results yet. Is what is turnout? Anecdotally, everyone seems to be saying that turnout seems high. It feels high. We know it was much higher for the early vote than it was in the most recent election. Are you hearing from your sources and folks that turnout's been high everywhere?
Well, I'm looking at the same stuff everybody else is. I'm looking at the same stuff you are. Just being in the polling places today, even the ones that are pretty quiet, when I talk to the poll workers, they're saying, oh yeah, we're seeing more people in here. And I think it's one of those kind of things. That was really kind of the lead-in thing that I was talking to people about was is this the biggest primary you've seen in a long time? And some people like even older than me. I'm getting to be pretty good age. So some people even older than me who had lived in the in the same place almost all their lives were saying, no, I've never seen a primary with this many candidates out there. And especially in urban districts, door knocking, a ground game is really important.
Sure.
And so what you have, if you have 5 candidates knocking doors, now you've got that many more people saying, be sure you get out and vote,
right.
Andy.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Andy,
right.
be sure and get out and vote. And then if 5 people come by and talk to you, knock on your door, that's 5 people who said, be sure and get out and vote, Andy.
Yep.
So it's really kind of a math equation then at that point.
That's my kind of peer pressure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you think about districts like Bobby Cleveland and Kevin Calvi's former district that have 12 candidates for the Republican primary. Like, that you close the curtains and just put a no soliciting sign out because you're sick of people waking up your dog and your kids and everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Talking to somebody at North Park Mall, which is where 145 and 140 precincts 145 and 146 are voting. Talking to some people who were coming out of the polls there, and they were, first of all, everybody's stunned when you just talk about the other corner of the Senate district,
right.
Because people in cities are used to kind of staying in the same neighborhoods all the time. So when you talk about some like places, not just miles or yards or something, then people start thinking how many different neighborhoods that crosses, how many different cultures it crosses even in a big city.
Right.
So talking to people there, they were saying, I've never seen this many candidates in a primary. I've never seen this much interest in a primary. I had one person, really intelligent person, tell me that she actually studied the candidates more because there were more of them.
Right.
So that's kind of a side effect, I think, that I kind of picked up on today talking to people.
Yeah, and that is something that I think can be really tough, especially in primary elections for these local offices. I mean, a lot of these candidates, the gubernatorial race, these guys are spending millions of dollars, right? But for some of these kind of hyper local offices, these campaigns don't have big budgets, so they don't have a fancy website that lays out all of their positions.
County assessor, county commissioner.
Yeah, so it can be really, really hard unless this is something that you follow pretty closely to ascertain, what the difference between the candidates are. I mean, between the candidates are. And in fact, hell, there's a lot of these state offices. I think the average voter may not even know what they do.
Right.
And that's, something we're hoping to take on as we get through the summer, kind of walking through state government level by level and trying to help people understand what do some of these more esoteric offices do. But that's a really tough thing too.
Right after this primary, I'm gonna focus on the county positions, county commissioners. Actually, county commissioners in Oklahoma County really have a lot of responsibilities, heavy responsibilities.
Oh yeah,
they're really kind of the executives of the county. City at City Hall, people on the city council just kind of serve in kind of to vote on something at the end of the line. City manager and the staff run it.
Right.
At the county level, the county commissioners literally tell people what to do next.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah. It's a full-time job, and it gets paid like a full-time job.
That's a true
It's
story.
one of the higher paying elected jobs out there.
Right. Yeah, I've been asking a few folks this week what they feel is the best job in Oklahoma government, and county commissioners come up as one of those positions.
Unless you get sent to federal prison like county commissioners were back in the 80s.
That's exactly right.
Rounded up about 90% of the county commissioners in Oklahoma and sent them to jail or let them bleed out.
We've had to clarify, too. When you say what's the best position, what's the one where you can do the most, or one's the one where you get paid the most and do the least? And I think the answer is it's different depending on which version of the question you're asking.
County commissioners work for that money.
They absolutely.
But it is paid higher than anybody else.
Right.
So that's why it keeps drawing people in.
Yeah.
So county commissioner is a very complex job. I sat down and interviewed Brian Mon, who's the
Curran,
one
right.
not running this
Right,
time.
right.
There
Yeah.
are like 2 running. So 2/3 of the county commissioners are gonna change.
Yep.
After all the voting is over, so you're going to have a 2/3 turnover at the county commissioner level. So I got with Brian Mon and interviewed him. Had a really good interview just about what does a county commissioner do. So I'm going to base one of my stories in that series
Awesome.
on what does a county commissioner.
I think that's a great one to highlight because it's one of the offices that has probably the most impact on your day-to-day life,
yeah.
and most people can't tell you who their county commissioner is
Yeah.
or what they do.
or what they do. Yet they complain about the county jail.
And the roads and bridges.
Complain how bad a shape the county courthouse is, about roads and bridges. So when people go, what do they do? What do they do? I say, well, somebody the other day in city government, I'm not going to say who this is because I don't want to embarrass them. I said, well, the buildings, and they said, what buildings are the county commissioners doing? I said, well, let's start with the courthouse,
right.
the county courthouse,
The jail.
the jail, right? Yeah,
All of the other ones.
right.
Yeah, Oklahoma. That was something I was not aware of until I moved here. That a lot of the power is consolidated at the county level,
Right.
because people didn't trust the little guy or the big guy.
Right.
Let's put it in the middle. And like so many things in Oklahoma, it has just been the same for 100 years.
Well, county government's always been so important because most of Oklahoma was rural.
Yeah.
Even Oklahoma City was, probably up until the 1960s.
Yeah.
Still, Oklahoma County was about half rural and half urban.
Sure.
Now today, when you look at it, urban areas grown out into the county and filled in the county a lot.
Right.
Still, when you get in East County over there, though, still the sheriff's office has quite a few areas out there where they're the only law out there.
Right,
It's just
right.
the county sheriff's office.
Yeah. Well, it's 7:15, Brett, and so I apologize. We're going to kick you off the mic. We've
right.
got 2 other folks coming on here. Thank you
Thanks,
so much
guys.
for joining
Thanks,
us.
Andy.
Brett, come
right.
back anytime.
All
Appreciate
right,
you talking to
I got a bunch of watch parties to go to.
I look forward to
Hey.
those stories.
All right.
All right, have a good day.
Thanks, Brett.
All right, so results have been supposedly live for 15 minutes. And
Yeah, quick update. It is 7:16. I've been refreshing the website
Nothing.
obsessively, and as of right now, we have no results.
Everything. I've seen several Twitter comments that are just saying refresh.
Right. No,
trying to get it down there. so.
Mayor Holt had a tweet at 7:01 and said, "And now every Twitter nerd in the universe starts obsessively hitting refresh."
He's not even in town. He's in Vegas or in L.A. or something. He voted on Friday.
So
we
Vegas or
asked
LA, someplace hotter than here?
We asked to meet with him, and he was not in town today. So
He's someplace hotter than here,
yeah,
apparently.
it's someplace hotter than here, which is hard to imagine. So joining us now on the microphone is Sheri Guyse. Hello, Sheri.
Hello, listeners.
How are you?
I'm pretty great.
Great. You got to get right up on that mic.
I have to get right up on
Just
that mic.
like that. You want to hop
Great.
on there, Thomas?
He
Right.
was concerned about not being on, but you can be on.
You can be on. Just
you
turn
can be the voice
that
of
mic
reason.
on there. Let's make sure that mic's on, and then get right up on it.
Okay,
As we
right
like-
up,
oh,
right
that
up
was
there.
good.
Am I
You're
there?
Natural.
You're
yeah.
there.
All right.
Excellent. So Sheri Guyse from Big Bravely. Excuse me.
Yes.
She's a life coach and a personal friend of mine for eons. It feels like many.
In internet years, it is eons.
It is. That's right. Back when the internet was a simple place, before the president was on there, when no public policy was shaped by tweets, we just had lunch.
Yeah.
And Thomas, who is someone I just met, and yet I learned someone I met years ago, also through the internet.
That's right.
We had an online sales transaction of a.
We're all connected. There are no strangers anymore.
Not.
It's just a question of whether we knew we met each other when it happened.
Well, even Kevin Bacon, right? Like there used to be 6 degrees of bacon, and then he came to town, and now I'm only 2 degrees away.
Yeah. Everyone here is 2 degrees from Kevin Bacon.
Right.
yeah.
Ruined.
It's ruined. That game is worthless now. So, did you guys vote today? I see I voted stickers.
I voted.
I voted.
Excellent.
Nice.
So, what issues are you guys watching particularly tonight?
I I voted yes for medical marijuana.
Okay.
Because it just makes a ton of sense
Sure.
for people who need that to have that. I said medical marijuana. It's really loud in this bar, so
It's
I'm
getting louder as time goes
right,
on. So
right.
You are welcome to scoot over if you'd like.
Yeah, I
and
mean you can
that-
cozy up.
We'll all be just like right in together, shouting at each other before this night's over.
I'm a daily CBD oil user for anxiety.
Sure.
And I've smoked pot and I don't really like it, but I think that I've seen plenty of people wildly benefit from it, and it's such an economic driver. It's just been a no-brainer for me to have that be legal here in Oklahoma City or in Oklahoma.
Sure. Do you, are there any, aside from state question 788, which everyone I think has an eye on, and pardon us if we pause to refresh our news feeds here.
Sure.
I'm listening while I hit refresh over and over again.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there any particular races you guys are watching, your area or otherwise in the state?
What about you? Thomas is in Shawnee.
All
So
right.
it's a little bit
am
like
in
diversity.
Shawnee. I feel like the most interesting primary races are probably on the Republican side.
Definitely.
I didn't have a chance to vote in those today, so it'll be interesting to see who comes out in the top two
Sure.
on the Republican side for governor.
Right.
Absolutely.
I
So-
think
talking to folks today, it's been consistent, overwhelming that those people say, what do you focus on today? And they say 788, and then what happens in the Republican gubernatorial primary. It seems,
Sure.
everybody's kind of come, it's been accepted. Nobody's going to get a majority, but who are going to be the top two?
But I mean, that being said, because I voted in the Democratic primary, there will. It'll be interesting to see who comes out in some of the races there on the Democratic side, and
Sure.
we actually have a chance of having great candidates on both sides of the aisle.
I
Totally.
totally agree. There's a couple of Republican candidates that I'm actually really excited about, as well as several of the Democratic candidates. I think it's going to be, very interesting. Very interesting. So 788 turnout.
Yes.
What else are you guys watching today?
I am watching the amount of voters showing up for a primary.
Yeah, turnout is.
That's exciting.
It really is. So my polling place, the most recent election was the mayoral election. I voted at about 5 o'clock. I think I was number 32 or 34, somewhere in there, maybe not even that high.
Yeah.
I believe in the 2016 presidential election, I voted at a similar time, and I was maybe the 100, 95 or 100, something
Right,
like that. I was voter 232 today, and that was at noon. So
I'm giving you my rock and roll face.
yeah, right. No, you're, and I think turnout. It seems clear that that's going to be the case today. I'm curious to see if that enthusiasm will carry to November. Will people show up in the same droves in November to vote for the candidates that they showed up to vote for today?
So
I think it depends now. Sorry, go ahead.
So that dovetails nicely into a project that I've started with a friend.
We have
results are
breaking
coming in.
news
Oh,
here.
perfect. Results.
I saw someone say results are coming in. I was like, I beg to differ, and then I refreshed, and indeed they are. Also, while you guys were talking and I interrupted, we sold our first T-shirt.
Oh,
I'm very
outstanding. All right, so first up, everybody's number one issue, state question 788. Now, to be clear, this is very early. This is with 0 of 1951 precincts reporting. So we have a lot of information to get. It looks like a total of about 40,000 votes so far, but with 40,000 votes tallied for the proposal, so that would be in favor of medical marijuana, is 54.1%, and against the proposal is 45.89.
All right, so far it's up in the lead, huh?
So about a
yes is
about a
winning.
9 percentage point lead for the medical marijuana proposal.
That's substantial.
Do you know where those votes are coming from?
No, we
I
have no
don't.
idea.
We cannot see which precincts
They are
which
coming
precincts
from
they are.
Oklahoma.
Which that alone is significant.
The other one in
right?
the primary for the Republican nomination for governor, we have in the lead with 24.28%. No, excuse me. In the lead with 31.68% is Mick Cornett. In second place is Todd Lamb with 24.28%. And in third place is Kevin Stitt with 23.95%. Now, that is with 19,422 votes. So those numbers are going to change dramatically. But so far, it's an early three-way between Cornette, Lamb, and Stitt.
It also occurs to
we'll
me
probably
that
see like 1 million votes by
Right.
the
Yeah.
end of the night.
right,
Yeah.
this is a drop in the bucket, and it occurs to me that us doing election updates
Doesn't matter because we're not
doesn't
actually
matter
live.
because this won't post till tomorrow.
But, you know, it's exciting.
So
it's fun.
It's exciting, you know. We're capture the moment. you
Right?
know?
Right.
You can
Exciting
like
for
ride
us.
the virtual
Yeah.
roller coaster.
It's exciting
tomorrow.
for you and for anyone else who's standing here listening.
Thomas, I understand you've been politically involved in the past.
I have.
Beyond just voting.
Yes.
Would you care to elaborate on that at all?
So I worked on Governor Brad Henry's both of his campaigns, and I worked all 8 years in his administration.
Okay, super. And what did you do there?
The first term, I worked in constituent services. So if you called wanting to talk to the governor, you had a complaint, something to talk about, I would take your call. I would answer your emails,
Right.
answer your snail mail.
Right.
And then the second term, I was the deputy press secretary and press secretary. So I was working more with the press at that point.
Sure. You said both deputy and actual press secretary. Was
Actual
it two
press-
roles, or was it just a dual title?
Actual press secretary, like maybe the last 11 months of the
Okay.
administration.
Right. I didn't know if you were like, I'm the press secretary and also my own deputy, which would
Well,
be
okay, that actually kind of described the last 11 months because we didn't hire a new deputy
It was
for,
just you
for
guys,
less than
yeah.
a year. Yeah.
just do both. That's what
Yeah,
they're saying. Right.
exactly. You
Fair
know,
enough.
we were a lame duck at that point, so yes.
Right. What is Governor Henry doing tonight? Do we know? Is he?
I have no idea.
Aside from Carrie Hicks, who I know has a connection to his administration through
Well,
Spencer.
I worked with Spencer for years, and
Yeah.
I actually
yeah,
like
that's right.
Spencer and I are both Shawnee folks, so I've known Spencer probably since he was a toddler.
Right.
He's a couple years younger than me.
Right. It really
So
is a
so I
small
hope
world.
that he and Carrie are doing well tonight, and I have no idea what Governor Henry is doing, but
Relaxing at home. and
Relaxing at
glad he is
home,
not
yeah.
part
Hanging
of
out,
this.
being awesome.
with a
Just being
beverage,
awesome.
watching
Yeah.
the returns.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, look. I'll take some more wine, please. Thank you.
Exactly.
And a taco. Right, yeah. That's the way it works. Excellent. All right, guys. Well, we've got to take a quick break before our next guest. Thanks so
Yep.
much. You guys were not even scheduled. You just hopped on the mic. I
Hopped on the
appreciate it.
mic.
On the mic.
Yep.
Sherry's always up for that.
I love
Sherry,
it.
how can we find you on social media?
MYJRNY.
My Journey.
is my personal, and Big Bravely is my professional.
Right? You have a website?
BigBravely.com.
BigBravely.com. So if folks are looking for personal, professional, or just general life coaching,
Yep, that's me.
hit you up. Excellent. Thomas, are you on social media as well?
I am on social
You
media.
want to share that?
Well, sure.
obligation.
You can find me on Twitter at Thomas_Larson, LARSON.
All right. Excellent. I do love Twitter. Hey, thanks to guys for being on here. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I believe JoBeth Hamon is going to join us. I see her across the room here. We'll be right back. Man, it just keeps getting louder in here. We're going to just shout at one another. So we are joined right now by JoBeth. Is it Hamon or Hamon?
Hammond.
Hamon.
Yes.
Someone corrected me one time, and I thought it was Hamon.
It is Hammond.
You get that a lot, though, don't you?
I do. I
Also-
actually recently got my dad's going through all this information from when my, I think my grand uncle, I don't know how he's related, but somebody related to me in Bartlesville was doing a family history back in like the 60s and specifically wrote out people will want to say Haman and then we'll spell it Hammond.
Oh, with a D.
Yeah, so since
Right.
the 60s, this has been an issue.
Interesting.
So it's not new.
No, it's
I'm
not
not
new.
the first one. Excellent.
Nothing's new under the sun.
So, JoBeth, you're with the Mental Health Association of Oklahoma.
I am.
But you were here as probably as a private
I
constituent.
am here as a private citizen.
But as a mental health professional, I appreciate that. We're also joined by Bo Broadwater from the Journal Record Legislative Report.
Correct.
Thank you for being here, Bo.
Thank
were
you for having me.
Quite possibly the best dressed person in this restaurant.
Well, I don't think it was a work day.
It's just because of the "Let's Fix This" mini button I
Oh, there
see
you go.
on there.
Well, I picked that up from a guy I know at one of the debates last week.
That's right. That guy is a scallywag, I believe, because he's me. All right, so thanks for being here. You guys both voted today, I presume.
Yes,
Absolutely.
my sticker would not stay on my dress. I lost it by the time I got home.
That's
I
what
was
all the
very,
heathens say.
very sad.
Right. Well, if you'd like to buy one of our Let's Fix This t-shirts, you can wear your I voted sticker every day.
All the time.
That's right. Quick plug, Bo already brought one, so I won't tag him on that. So what was your experience like at the polls today?
I actually went later than I usually do. I usually go first thing in the morning, but I wasn't able to today, so I ended up going around 4:30 or so, and it was actually there was no line for me, but it was steady. There were folks coming in, and I was waited behind one person. I live in a mostly, what I can tell, Democratic precinct, so it sounded like it was all Democrats getting their state question and then their primary ballot,
Right.
so it was pretty
Did you
easy
look to
breezy.
see how thick the tear-off sheets for the ballots were?
I believe the poll worker said it was about 650 ballots that had gone through, so we're estimating
300-ish?
300. So
I don't know how many people are in a district. Do you know?
I have no idea.
no,
Nobody knows.
I believe at one
Couldn't
point,
tell
I believe one of our poll workers had told us our precinct is about 1,500 people.
It seems
Okay.
reasonable.
Yeah.
So almost a third. Well, I mean, that's not terrible for a primary election.
Yeah.
Anything short of 100% is terrible to me. But
Yeah.
I have high
Preach.
standards.
Preach.
I went in about 8 o'clock this morning, and there had already been 135 through my precinct.
Wow. And you're in War Acres?
Yes.
Because you're on
Wow.
city council out there.
Yes,
Do
correct.
do the poll workers know you by
No.
name? No, really?
No.
I'm a little surprised by that.
Well, because I go by Bo, but my legal name is Jack, and so when they look up my name, they're like, "Who's this guy?" But
What's it like to have two awesome first names?
I don't know.
Is that Bo? No, it's Jack. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Well, if he goes by
Middle
Bo, he
name's
probably
danger.
doesn't seem like he's super
My
psyched
family
about
calls me
Jack.
Pistol.
Yeah, we were talking to them, and they said that it was about as many people there early that morning, right when they opened up, as the 2016 presidential election.
Interesting.
Wow.
Right.
For that hour,
Right.
between 7 and 8ish. So
Yeah. Are there? So the question we've asked everybody is: are there any issues or races that you guys are watching particularly close tonight?
Yeah, for me, it's really the county commissioner for District 1 that
Okay.
Carrie Blumert is running
She
in
just
on the
came in a
Democrat
moment
side.
ago,
She sure
yes.
did. And then also the Corporation Commission. I've been watching Ashley Nicole McCrae, who's
Okay.
a local activist and kind of grassroots organizer, has been running in the Democratic primary. So I'm keeping an eye on those two.
I just met her a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Kind of on accident.
Yeah.
And she's a very strong environmental advocate.
Yes, yeah.
Which is interesting for the Corporation Commission
For
because they have
sure.
purview over like wells and fracking and environmental things.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been really excited about her throwing her hat in the ring for that, because I think so often we are like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that because it's industry or something that I'm not for. But if we can get people at the table that have those interests, having that balanced perspective, I think could be really interesting in making sure that those things are more maybe
Sure.
even. So.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Interesting. Bo, what about you?
Well, professionally, I'm interested in all of them.
Sure.
We're, running the working a Journal Record, running our legislative report, because I'll be covering all of these offices next spring. For me personally, I'm in Senate District 30, which was David Holt's old seat.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few candidates running for that seat, so I'm interested to see how that turns out. And then I'm just also curious about all the seats where the incumbent has a primary challenger.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
it's going to be interesting.
Right. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of seats that result in a runoff here in the next few weeks, and that's and the runoffs are in August.
Yep.
And so for a lot of campaigns, I think that's going to be. They're just waiting to see like what happens next.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now, something that Scott and I noticed today while we were driving around town, we went to Yukon, Mustang, Edmond, Oklahoma City. Burned a lot of gas today trying to cover territory. And the one thing that we noticed a lot is that there were not many signs out there today.
Huh.
And so we talked to one of Lieutenant Governor Lamb's
field reps,
field staff, and he was like, I think code enforcement came through and pulled these last night.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, it was notably like areas that historically I've seen,
just tons,
like in Edmond on Broadway, right? Like it's a big median, and usually it's tons of signs. There was zero.
Huh.
Not a few, zero signs. And even on Lincoln, up near the state election board, normally there's a whole bunch, and there was just a few days ago.
I was going to say, I saw on, I think Thursday or Friday, I saw someone saying they were going to go vote, and they were just like driving up Lincoln, and
it was crazy.
Just litter, signs
everywhere. I drove up Lincoln last Thursday, and it was just signs everywhere.
Today there was one candidate.
They must have done a
There's
sweep.
a lot of signs for one guy.
Yeah.
I was like, did he just come this morning or someone just like, okay.
He just kept an eye out until code enforcement came through. And then
So a real popular intersection in my neck of the woods is Meridian and Expressway.
We drove through that.
And there's signs everywhere, right there across from Lake Hefner.
Yeah.
Lake Hefner Golf Course.
Right.
I don't think I would want to put those signs out. That sounds
well. I
like
noticed
that'd be intimidating.
Right.
Well,
like
a lot
so
of
much traffic.
And like hop out.
Oh my God.
We did not go by that area. We did not do that intersection today.
Yeah. Meridian 39 we went through.
Well, I noticed last night a couple candidates were pulling their own signs. I don't know if they were, trying to recycle and go to other areas because signs are expensive. But I don't know. But they were all there today.
The fiasco of Tom Guild pulling Kendra Horn signs, they were just like, well, let's just take them back before someone else does.
So that's a question. We were talking about this day. How much a typical, not the big one, but a typical, like 18 by 12 sign that you get put in your yard. What does that cost, a campaign?
I do not know about the bag signs, but I do know the kind of the hard plastic ones that go on the stakes, not the bag signs. It's about $500 for around 100 of them.
Wow.
Are
or
you
at least
serious?
it was 2 years ago.
Right.
Wow.
So do you buy signs for a city council race?
No.
No.
No. But there was a failed attempt at another race.
Oh, really?
Many years ago.
Interesting.
I get the sense you don't want to talk about it.
No. So I ran in the primary for House District 87.
Okay.
2 years ago when I found out that Representative Nelson was not going to seek re-election. And that's Colin Walkie now holds that seat.
Okay.
And Colin Walkie, he's a friend of mine. I agree with him on a lot of things. And honestly, I do not think, I am a Republican. I do not think that seat would go red, and it would just be a waste of time. So.
Sure.
Interesting.
Plus, I think he's doing a great job.
Hey,
sure.
Like I say to almost everybody, props to you for throwing your hat in the ring and even giving it a go.
No, 100%.
That takes some courage and some hard work
and some money.
Money, yeah, exactly right.
Yes, lots of money.
Yeah.
Lots of money. City council is good for me, so.
Right.
Cool.
JoBeth, what do you think about the next step? So moving beyond the primary to the general, what are you hoping to see?
Yeah, I'm hoping to see a lot of women win their primaries. I think there are a lot of strong women in the Democratic primaries in which I voted, and I'm just really hoping to see that they come through because it feels like there is this sort of cultural moment that that begs for more women being represented at, especially even local levels. Just having those voices be part of the decision-making process. That I'm hoping to see those women win their primaries and go on to challenge their Republican counterpart.
Right. We had a guest on earlier. I think it was Madison with Generation Citizen. Meredith. Dang it! Now
I believe it's Madison. Yeah.
Starting to second guess myself. I think it's Madison too. Apologies, she's still across the room. That she said she was able to vote for women in all of the races for her, which is something that's never happened before. And I think Scott and I both, listened to the 538 Politics podcast, and they had an episode this last week about immigration. But in that episode, and I think one of their blog posts was about female candidates and how likely a district is to elect a female candidate based on that district's partisan lean. This is at the national level, but it was remarkable. I mean, like a diagonal line of like the most conservative elect women at the lowest rates, and the most liberal elected the highest rates.
Huh.
And it was like a 45-degree angle.
That's
I mean,
fascinating.
enough that, like, I'm a data geek, and I was like, yo, this is a big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
So someone should pay attention to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and in my opinion, if conservatives want to keep winning races, I mean, everyone watches the news like, we got to get some more diversity and equality and things, and they got to shift who their candidates are. That's
one of the big races is with women is the labor commissioner.
Right.
Especially, well, for myself being a Republican, the Republican primary between Leslie Osborne, Kathy Costello. There is, Mr. Keith Swinton is also running for that. But you've got two big names there that are seeking that office. I'm interested to see how that plays out.
We hosted a debate actually between Ms. Costello and Representative Osborne and Mr. Swinton. I think were you at that one?
I was there.
Yeah.
I was back at the back of the theater.
Yeah. So it was a good debate. It was interesting.
Yeah. I went just because I was curious because I figured I'm going to have to consider one of these people in the November, and especially because I know Kathy Costello through her mental health advocacy. I was really curious to hear her the distinctions maybe between Leslie Osborne, who I also really respect as somebody who really knows her stuff and really seems to follow her conscience. I was really curious to see that, given that I might vote for a Republican in November. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I had the, shameless plug here. I don't know if you guys are going to cut this out. I had the opportunity for JRLR to interview Kathy Costello and Leslie Osborne for our podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And I was impressed with both of them. I am very, very impressed, and I am excited to see how that race turns out. I really am. I'll be watching that one. And then, of course, you've got Dana Murphy for Lieutenant Governor.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Who a lot of good, strong female candidates this year.
This isn't like we don't have like a breaking news here since this isn't live. But as of right now, with 103 precincts reporting, Dana Murphy is in the lead for Lieutenant Governor, followed by Matt Pinnell. Dana has 44.39%. Matt Pinnell with 37.39%. That's another interesting race. And then the governor's race, as of this moment, it's a 3-horse race with Mick Cornett, Todd Lamb, and Kevin Stitt. So we'll see how that, kind of shakes out for the rest of the night. Any thoughts on the gubernatorial primary on the Republican side specifically?
Well, I think it is a 3-person race. I think it has been for quite some time. My personal thoughts, just based on some of the people that I've talked to, I think there will be a late Cornett push. I think a lot of people thought he might be the third horse, the odd man out at the end. But I think he's made a strong push here towards the finish line of the primary.
That's sure what it seems like.
Yeah, but it'll obviously be that'll go to a runoff.
Yeah. Cool. Any predictions on what's going to happen on SQ 788?
Well, I think it'll pass.
Yeah.
I think it will pass, relatively close.
I agree, yeah.
And my personal thoughts are July the 10th will be in third special session.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. I was talking to a friend earlier whose polling place is on 23rd. I don't know what his precinct number is necessarily, but he said that there was an independent who went to go vote that was in front of him who was like, oh, I don't need the Democratic primary. I just want to vote on the state question.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting that some people are really just showing up to vote for that, and I assume to vote for it, like literally, because it just seems like it's probably pulled a lot of people out of the woodwork that might not otherwise.
I think there's no question it's driving turnout. I think it's going to be interesting to see if I want to see what turnout does in November. Are a lot of the people that came and voted? I mean, how bizarre would that be to have higher turnout in the primary than in the general election?
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of I think that there are people who, exactly like you're saying, are showing up to vote on 788. But I think most of them are also voting in other races.
Yeah.
I don't know how strongly they feel about the candidates, but I want to know. I'm just curious. Are you going to show up in November to support the candidate that you voted for in June?
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to that.
Or are you just picking names on the ballot that the person handed you?
Yeah. I think the primary election has had such a high turnout this year for several reasons. 788 is huge.
Sure.
It's a very big state question. But my other thought is that the veto referendum, it kind of kept the teachers involved, which is a huge group of people in the state, and I believe it kept people involved for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
And it obviously brought out a lot of people to run for office.
Oh yeah,
so.
That's why I hear a lot of the primaries are folks running against incumbents who voted no on that bill. So, yeah.
I think it's going to be really curious. We all know that millennials comprise the largest voting bloc in America and in Oklahoma right now. And if millennials turned out at the same rate that older folks did, things would shift in a hurry.
Yeah.
They just don't. But this election might change that at least a bit, right? I will say that I believe that issues about marijuana cross age boundaries in a way that other things don't, right?
Sure.
Yes.
For
Way
sure.
different than abortion, even. There's a lot of baby boomers who grew up when weed was prevalent, and they're like, you know what, it's fine. Like, we got bigger fish to fry.
No big deal.
Right.
Right, yeah.
And in this political environment, we could all use a little chill pill or gummy or whatever you choose. And so, I'm curious to see how it shapes. So far, as we've been watching results, and it's been in the lead, the yeses the whole time.
Yep.
Obviously, by the time this posts, we'll all know the answer.
Yeah.
Like I said, and I mentioned this earlier, but I want to know what the difference in the yes vote is between early and absentee and people who voted today. I'm just really curious, I'm just curious. It doesn't mean anything. What, if any, effect the late advertising push, that $500,000 that the no campaign dropped in the last 3 or 4 weeks, how much that moved the needle.
Oh yeah, if this vote would have happened 2 months ago, it would have passed easily.
Yeah,
is my personal opinion.
I think you're right.
We were talking earlier about the no campaign dumping, $500,000 in the last week.
Yeah.
$100,000 yesterday into this. Do you think that's too late? Not too little too late. I mean, maybe too much too late. But do you think that the people they're trying to reach, the decisions were already made?
It's hard. I mean, at that point, it just kind of would blow my mind that, especially on something that had so much, like on district judges and stuff where people are still like texting their friends who are lawyers and are like, what do you think?
That was
it
me
seems
this
like
morning.
that's stuff that like people are maybe on election day still undecided about, but on something that's been so publicized, it kind of boggles my mind, but maybe I just live in too much of a I researched this a while ago, and like a month ago, I was like, okay, I've got my mind made up that there would be people who are still so undecided that $100,000 the day before would really sway them. But people continue to surprise me, so
there are people, of course, organizations like Let's Fix This, and myself, and people who are involved, quote unquote, politically, who keep up with it. But there are people out there who honestly woke up this morning and didn't have a clue how they were going to vote.
I had a friend text me at about 4 o'clock that was like, hey, who do I vote for? I was like, let's have a conversation about this first. And then within 30 minutes, she's like, oh, I got it.
Or people I know.
He sends you a text and he's in the booth.
I had someone that I work with.
Oh my God.
I had someone that I worked with last Wednesday, because I started last week, I started coming out of my office to this common area at 9 o'clock every day and be like, Election Tuesday.
Yeah.
Everybody better vote. If you have questions about issues or candidates, come talk to me, and I will not tell you who to vote for, but I will tell you where you can get some information. And one of them was like, what are you talking about? I said, the Election Tuesday. And she was like, we have an election on Tuesday? And I was just like,
yeah.
So what are we voting
You're a
on?
bad
I was just like,
American.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't.
Do you even follow us on social media?
Are you on Twitter? I got a bone to pick with you.
We gotta get you on the tweeter.
Well, and it does it's hard for me to fathom because I feel like I stay so plugged in because of social media, but also I was out of town for the last 9 days, and so there were certain Democratic primaries that I was still I don't labor commissioner. I was I don't know. That I was really glad that you guys hosted those debates because the summaries of them really helped. Even I was just reading one yesterday and I was like, okay, and so even for someone who stays aware, plugged in, some of those like more obscure offices are still hard to pin down at the last minute, but it's just hard to not even, it's just hard for me to fathom like not knowing that it's happening.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And I think in this election, right, in an off-year gubernatorial election with all of these statewide races, there's a lot you can miss. And I admit that several years ago, I didn't know the impact that these positions had on my life. And now that I've been doing this, on the side, I'm like, oh, snap. Like, these actually have an impact. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Well, and, I'll piggyback on what you were saying. Two of the debates that I attended, I found very informative. And, in fact, I changed my mind on originally where I thought I was. So
it makes a huge
folks,
difference.
Bo Broadwater changed his mind based on our debates.
Life-changing.
That's a pretty heavy endorsement.
This is probably the best endorsement you will get tonight in the next 5 minutes.
So unless someone offers me a free beer. But so the thing that's important about that is that, and Trace over at Non-Doc and I had this conversation that, and the folks at Generation Citizen who are across the room from us here had this discussion in our planning, is that there's not enough debates. Like, news organizations aren't having these.
Yeah.
And so without them, I mean, News 9 did help. Once we kind of got it going, they realized there's value in this, and they helped stream these too. That these races are historically sleepy, or people don't pay attention to. And yet, as we know, they have a big impact on our life.
Yeah.
And just seeing candidates on stage, when you get to see them face to face, discussing issues, answering to the public, it's different than just reading stuff, reading words on a page.
Well, and not just being on stage, but actually debating, because there were plenty of candidate forums to where all it was talking points. If you went to one in January, you heard the exact same answer, maybe tweaked slightly for polling purposes in the end of May.
For sure.
So debates are key.
Yeah.
Speaking of debates, we did have an attorney general debate. We don't have much in the way of returns right now, but it is interesting to me that it's not close right now. Attorney General Hunter with 51%, Mr. Drummond 29%, and Angela Bonilla with 19%.
Wow.
Now, granted, this is super early. This is less than 10,000 votes, but that's just really, I don't know, thoughts on that? I thought that could be tighter.
Might be a little more competitive. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I will also say that on the Democratic Labor Commissioner race, again, right now we've only had about 45,000 votes cast, only 9% reporting, but Fred Durrell with 76% of the vote, which I'm not surprised by because Sam Massoum was great. I love that he attended and participated in the debate, and he kind of ended it by saying, like, you know what, this guy's great too. Is there a vice commissioner I could run for? And I was like, oh, I think he just
I
think he conceded the race.
Conceded at that point.
And so, but again, I mean, hats off to him for even considering the run.
Yeah,
right? Like,
for
it's a
sure.
big deal, so.
And I think, it goes back to that point of having those people being able to compare at least two people, so it's not always just a given that, okay, well, this person is going to be the Democratic or Republican candidate, is helpful to see if there are distinctions. And even between what I read about the Democratic debate and then what I experienced at the Republican one, I was surprised at how many similarities there were between some answers, regardless of party, that the labor commissioner position is somewhat, it's a position that can kind of cross those political divides in a way that maybe not all of those state positions can.
I will say that I was recording a video yesterday morning in the parking lot of the state capitol, and Leslie Osborne pulled up in her car and she said, "Hey, do you need a labor commissioner in that video?" And I said, "No, thank you, but I appreciate the offer." And it was just funny that, as if anything else could make it more awkward, of recording a video on your cell phone in the parking lot.
Getting out the vote.
That's right. All right. Well, JoBeth and Bo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much.
We're going to take a quick break, and I think Carrie Blumert is supposed to join us if she's not fully engaged in her watch
Celebratoriness.
party across the building. But thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Look forward to see more results. As we say.
Hi.
Here. Hi. All right,
There
welcome
we
back.
are.
Good times.
We're
good
back.
times.
Hi guys. Hello.
We are still at
Hello,
Okanor.
welcome.
We're
We're
Okanor.
here.
And now we are joined by Daniel Chae and Carrie Blumert. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for
Ah,
having us.
That's so exciting. So, Carrie, we scheduled this before you did, but
I thought I scheduled before you all did.
you might have. I don't know. I'm just saying. But it's good to see you
Yes.
here. That Daniel Chae is running for county treasurer for Oklahoma County.
That's right. That's
Carrie
right.
is running for county commissioner for Oklahoma County, District
Yes.
1.
Yes.
So you guys would work together then, right? Or
Indeed. I would
Oh.
try to figure out funds for Carrie's projects and work together to build a good consensus, right?
I like
That's
it.
interesting. I had not thought about that, Scott.
What?
Good, that they'd work together.
They would
Yeah.
they would work together.
We'd be on the board of county commissioners together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
County government eludes me. and
Yeah, I
I'm
know. It
fascinated
eludes a
by
lot
it.
of people.
Right.
Do you want? Can you give just for anybody? Can you give just a brief overview, like how county commissioners work in Oklahoma and like what they do?
Okay. So every county in Oklahoma has 3 county commissioners, no matter how many people live in that county. So Oklahoma County has 3 commissioners. This year in 2018, 2 of them are retiring. So there's 2 open seats, which is pretty rare.
Right.
And they basically oversee where a lot of your property taxes go. They sit on what's called the county budget board or the county board of commissioners. It includes the treasurer, the assessor, the court clerk, the sheriff, and the 3 commissioners.
Okay.
So they oversee the county jail, the county juvenile justice center, the county courthouse, roads and bridges that are outside of city limits. And then there's some social services that they oversee, the county pharmacy, the Metro Library System, the City County Health Department. So it's a pretty, I tell people it's a different job than a senator where you're
Right.
drafting legislation and voting yes or no on bills. This is more about managing county government.
Right.
You're kind of like
Saying
the-
we're going to do this. We're going to spend this money to fix this bridge,
Correct.
or we're
Correct.
going to make this upgrade to the jail.
Yes.
It's much more of an administrative position.
Yes. And yes.
Administering like
County
how many
dollars.
different departments with hundreds of millions of dollars
Yeah.
Right.
over programs with disparate functions.
Yes.
It sounds like a very big, complicated job.
It's a full-time position, and it's 4 years, so it really gives you a chance to really do some work before you run again.
So how many months have you been campaigning, Carrie?
I have been campaigning since May of 2017,
Oh wow.
so 13 months, and I've been knocking on doors for 12 months. So
Yeah, I've met a lot of candidates, and I have to say, Carrie's probably the hardest working candidate I've ever met. We've met because we were both running together, and as you were mentioning, Scott, that we would be working together, and so we both made it a point to meet each other. And I guess if I was going to work with anybody, I would want to work with someone that was going to put in the homework, put in literally the miles, and hit the ground running. And so
Yeah.
I was really excited to support Carrie's campaign. I mean, we try to push it on our own, like Chae social media handles,
Right.
and at this point, you got to take a stand and kind of choose and push the candidates you want to work with and stuff.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Well,
Thank you, Daniel.
It's been a total pleasure and a total honor.
And
yeah.
so you mentioned, Daniel, running for county treasurer, that you would try and find money for Carrie's projects. Like, does the county treasurer, are you responsible for like auditing the funds that come into the
Sure.
county?
Yeah, and I can clarify. Yeah, so all of us, all 8 elected officials, we working together. The treasurer's role day to day involves basically collecting property taxes and dishing them out, like ensuring that the treasurer is ensuring that we're receiving all the funds due to the county.
Okay.
That's the day to day. That's sort of the bookkeeping aspect to it.
Sure.
But altogether, the 8 elected officials make up the board, the county budget committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
And from there, I think it's really important who's in these positions to really affect the culture of the county, right?
Right.
As a county, are we going to
just continue to do bare minimum, or are we going to take advantage of every tool that we have, figure out every single angle, work with our community partners, work with the nonprofit community to be able to solve issues, right? I mean, are we going to be a county that just kind of does a hands-off approach? And I mean, we have our mandated issues, but there are so many different ways, so many creative ways, and I feel like, you know, as a county board, we can have those conversations. And so there's the day-to-day treasurer work, but there's also the larger aspect of being one of the 8 elected officials to really change the county, or to set the philosophy, set the perspective of the county.
Awesome. That's awesome. So kind of in terms of talking about kind of the day-to-day, you know, the collecting of taxes and finance, the day-to-day finance work. So many people, I would suggest most people know you as proprietor of Chae on 23rd, as well as Urban over next to Tower Theater.
Yeah, and All About Cha being our third.
So what's kind of your background? How did you decide, like, I'm going to go from, like, running this restaurant to I'm going to run for county treasurer?
Yeah.
How did...
So my entire life before 5 years ago when I opened up All About Cha was dedicated towards public service. So I used to be a county employee in Michigan. What a lot of people don't know is while I've been in Oklahoma, I also work for the Department of Commerce, basically being a federal fund monitor. So I monitor federal, state, and local funds to ensure that they're being used appropriately. Not only that, but setting guidance about, you know, people think they know how to use federal, state, and local funds, but they don't realize that there's a lot of leeway, you know, in between the lines that you can use to be creative. And I think that's why it's exciting to work with young professionals. You know, we're always very aggressive. You know, we want to be able to think outside the box, but also within the parameters of regulations. And that's basically what I was known for back in Michigan, what I was doing here in on behalf of the state.
So this is like coming back to your roots then.
Oh, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
This is who he is.
That's so awesome.
It's the essence of Daniel Chae.
Well, I remember last year before our Bourbon event that Chae helped sponsor, we had a podcast, one of our early ones, where, Scott, you mentioned Chef Chae, and I was like, he's not really a chef. His mom is kind of the one behind it. I was like, he's actually in social services. And everyone's like, you know, record scratch. What?
Yeah,
But
it's been
but the
exciting.
buns.
Yeah,
but the buns.
But yeah, I mean, there have been times I let people call me Chef Daniel all the time, and I think it's the funniest thing ever because I don't cook.
At your house, who does the cook? Who cooks?
Shanae definitely does the whole cooking from scratch.
Okay.
I'm more of I'll bring home leftovers from one of our restaurants.
I brought home but the buns.
I mean, using your resources wisely.
Oh,
come on.
right, exactly. Well, you know, and that's been the fun part, the challenging part about owning my own businesses. You know, it's been, you've got to think creatively. You got to, most importantly, be in tune with the community. Right? Like, you can't just go based on what you think of. And again, that's what I think sets us apart as a new league of candidates. It's like, we're not just ideological, going to go our own way. We're going to talk to people. Like, Carrie knocked on over 6,000 doors.
It's true.
She lives further away from me than any other District 1 commissioner and yet candidate, and yet guess who knocked on my door? It was Carrie. And
Me.
Yeah.
Do you have calluses on your knuckles? From
People ask me that a lot. I've worn through a pair of tennis shoes.
Wow.
I've
Forrest
tried
Gump.
every mosquito repellent product they make. I know exactly what works, so if you need help, contact me.
Right. Because you, like, knock doors kind of into the evening hours when it's after work.
Yes.
When there's mosquitoes in this
After
year,
work,
it's been a
and then
bumper
all
crop.
day on Saturdays, and then in the last 2 months, I've added on Sundays.
Right,
So how many steps do you get on? How many steps does your iPhone tell you get on a Saturday of door knocking?
Yesterday I got 14,000 steps, and I knocked all day from like 11 to 8:30.
So that's like 7 miles.
It's a
How
lot.
many miles? I don't know how many
Is it
miles that is.
10,000,
6 or
like 5
7
miles?
Yeah. So 7 miles.
That's a lot.
I would say an average Saturday is 10 to 15,000. Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Name
Are
any
you
other
a runner
candidate that's done
also?
that, right?
Do you run at all?
I used to be a runner.
Okay.
I don't really have time anymore.
If we started
I
a
used
Let's
to
Fix
run,
This
and then I
running
started
team,
this.
Would you join?
Maybe. Depends on what my schedule is like if I get elected.
I'm like this wishy-washy. So as someone who is a pseudo runner, I really envision like a Let's Fix This
Oh, okay.
running team that you train on your own, but then like we sign up for certain races and
Oh.
we all get jerseys and we
All the
run
same
together.
shirts,
right?
yeah.
Cool.
Like,
Okay.
how cool would that be?
What would?
I'm
Excuse
game.
me. What was your question?
No. I'm.
Let's
what?
deflect from running.
You both asked me a question at the same time.
Oh, I did. What did I ask?
How fast are you? I think.
Oh no, I think I asked how many miles, or that I was going to repeat
I
the
think
same
it's
question.
7.
I think it's 7.
Someone.
Oh no!
correct us
Oh, you
if
know what I
we're
asked?
wrong.
I asked how many, or what other candidate has ever done that? Or do you like from the
I mean,
people that are
knock
listening to this
doors like
podcast?
that?
Well,
yeah,
for,
to
for
walk
a
that.
county commissioner race, that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
For a House race, I've heard of candidates knocking that many doors, maybe
Cindy
a little bit
Munson.
more.
Yeah,
Cindy
Cindy
Munson,
Munson,
absolutely.
Jason Dunnington,
Yeah.
Paula Sophia. Like, I've heard of people really knocking doors
I
for
mean, and
houses.
Kendra Horn for the 5th
Yeah.
district, Kendra's been getting after it
Yeah.
too, for sure.
But for a county race,
yeah.
typically it's people who've already been elected in some other capacity and they try to transfer their notoriety
Sure,
to
yeah.
county government. So it's kind of rare for someone like me who's brand new to jump in and try to build a campaign from scratch.
Right. Do you find that like established or older candidates or incumbents are less willing to knock doors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I knew the answer
Well,
to that. I just wanted to hear
I
you
mean,
say
it seems like it's paying off,
We're
right?
all- we're all
With
kinda
the-
smiling
with
over
the
here.
exception of Cindy Munson.
Yeah.
Cindy's got some hustle.
Yeah. Cindy will go knock on doors when she doesn't even really have to.
Yeah.
Right.
Just to talk with her constituents. So.
Yeah.
I think that says something about a candidate, right?
Yeah.
Like that's, I mean, one thing, we don't focus a lot on campaigns and what's involved there yet, but I do feel like that's one of the things I've learned is that you got to knock on doors.
Yep.
Like that's how you win elections.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Have you started knocking on doors, Daniel?
I'm about to.
Okay.
I'm gonna starting. we sold one of our.
Right.
Or we're in the process of selling one of
yeah.
our spots, and so
Right.
we will be. Yeah, I've got 2 kids, school-aged kids, and that's
Yeah.
it's always
That's
a
a
fun
challenge.
one.
Well, and you weren't on the ballot today because you don't have a primary opponent,
That's right, that's right.
So it's going to be the general election for you. Carrie, other than your race, of course, what are you most interested to see tonight as we see returns come in?
Wait, say that one more time.
Other than your race,
Yeah.
what are you most interested to see tonight when the returns come in? What are you watching the most?
I want to see how Kendra Horn did,
Sure.
5th Congressional District. I want to see the results of Senate District 40.
Yep.
My Senate district.
Yep.
2 amazing candidates ran, Carrie Hicks and Danielle Ezell.
Yep.
And they both worked their butts off.
That is
and
a
they're
true
both
story.
very good candidates. So I want to see the results of that.
Right.
I would say those 2 races are what I'm really paying attention to.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Especially
and
'cause
the governors. I couldn't vote on the Republican ticket,
Sure.
but I want to see who's going to be in the runoff for the governor's
Yeah.
race.
Right.
Right now, as of this moment, let's see how many precincts reporting. With 746 of 1,951 precincts reporting, it's a 3-way race. So Cornett, Lamb, and Stitt, neck and neck
That's
and
what I
neck.
expected.
Yeah.
We haven't really addressed this, and aside from any partisan leaning or anything, the fact that Kendra Horn's maybe most significant opponent, Tom Guild, who has run 5 times
Yes.
for this position, was caught on video by both security cameras and a city council member throwing away her signs the night before the primary election. Just to me screams like terrible missteps on
Yeah.
several levels.
Yeah.
And it was just almost comical. I can't believe. I guess it was the leading story last night on
Yeah.
Channel 5.
Wait,
What is the emoji where you're slapping your forehead
Yeah.
with the
Face
palm
palm.
of your
Yeah.
hand?
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what else happens? There's another candidate's wife that was caught doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I saw her doing it today. I drove by her when she was doing it.
On
way.
Classen.
Bob Anthony.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we heard about that this morning.
And
yeah.
Nancy
Yeah.
Anthony, she's the director of the Oklahoma City Community Foundation. So
Yeah.
She was standing in the median at 36 in Classen, because that's where I live,
Yep.
near where I live.
It's,
And yeah,
do
she was.
yard signs make that big of a difference that you,
So-
you would risk being caught doing that?
Here's what I've learned as a candidate in dealing with yard signs. Yes, they build some recognition, some
Yeah.
momentum. But I will knock on people's doors who have a sign for my opponent in their yard,
Yeah.
and they will say, "Oh, of course I'm voting for you." he or she asked me to put this sign in my yard, and I couldn't say no, but I'm voting for you. So signs signs do not equal votes.
I'm currently doing the facepalm emoji,
Yes.
right?
So personally, I will only put a sign in my yard if I am 100% backing that candidate.
Right.
I'm voting for you. I'm probably giving money to you. I might even volunteer for you. And I guess that's not how everybody thinks.
That's so weird. That's so weird.
Honestly, I don't think before this year I donated or supported really any candidates. And I have 3 signs in my yard, and I donated to all 3 candidates.
Yeah.
And I would have hosted a fundraiser, but that was all I could do with time constraints this year. So, and that's I think that's a personal decision, right? Like Scott and I we have similar political leanings in many ways, but we didn't vote the same on a lot of people.
Yeah.
And like my mom lives across town, we don't vote the same on things. We're all still friends, right? Like it's okay to get along.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Voting for someone different than me is not an insult.
No, because people's conviction, right? Like, you may vote for someone I think is terrible, but like, if you really believe they're the best person, then go for it, man. Like, my job is to try to sway you, and if I lose, okay. So in a dream world, everyone I agree with shows up, everyone my opponents agree with shows up, and let the best side win, right? Like, that's fair. So anyway. All right, guys.
Well,
hey,
thank you guys both so much for your time.
Oh, man.
Thanks for
Thank
the
you.
pod.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to go have another drink.
Best of luck. As well you should.
We're going to shut down this bar tonight.
People were Venmoing me money today to buy myself drinks tonight.
Oh, I love
it was awesome.
Nice.
You should use it.
Thank you.
Well, this is the end of our longest podcast ever. I think it's probably at 3 hours altogether. So if you're listening to this and you've made it through,
thank you.
God bless you.
Go have a drink yourself.
Yeah. Hopefully they all fast forwarded towards the end, right?
Right. Well, someone actually walked by and said, "Ooh, I can listen to this at double speed and still get a good workout in." And I thought, you are a bigger political nerd than I am. Like, that's tremendous. So anyway.
Well, great conversation.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, guys.
Come back in the fall.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I will. November.
That's right.
Okay, so
All
that
right.
brings us to the end of our episode. Scott, this is our marathon longest podcast, but also our first podcast coverage of an election.
Yes, and it's been a ton of fun. I've had a blast all day. I hope if you've been following us on Instagram or Twitter, or Facebook, you've enjoyed it. And if you've made it to the end, you are a trooper. And come find us at our next live event, and one of us should buy you a drink.
That's exactly right. And we just decided off the air that in November we should do a live podcast where we actually broadcast. Right, we'll record it, but also broadcast it and push it out to something. SoundCloud, Facebook, something.
Where you can follow us and get live election results and breaking news. And
I did see Steven Tyler here a minute ago, and I think as a board member and as of a director or manager of Tower Theater, and
I bet he can help us figure out how to do that.
He's got a few ideas for how we could do that. So excellent. All right, Scott, any closing thoughts you have?
No, I mean, as we sit right now, it's about 8 o'clock. Governor's race is shaping up to be a 3-way race, kind of like we were expecting. SQ88 yeses are outweighing the no's about 10 points. So right now it looks like the night is going kind of as we thought, but I will just tell you, perusing through these races, there's a whole lot of candidates that are favorites that are at 48%. So we are going to see a lot of runoffs in August, I think.
That's right. So we'll be back next week. We're going to give ourselves a few days, I think, to recuperate from tonight and to
and to let you recuperate from tonight.
And to let things soak in. So we want to find out what happens with State Question 788, what the governor decides about special session, and we'll come back to you with another episode soon. Until then, that brings us to the end of this episode. Remember, you can connect with us on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Fix This OK. Excuse me. You can connect with us on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Fix This OK. Scott is at SC Melson. I am at Andy OKC. You can also like our Facebook page at facebook.com/Let's Fix This OK. Our Instagram is, I just said that. Our website is letsfixthisok.org. You can sign up for our newsletter, read our blog, find resources, details, check out our store. There's some new endorsement supporter opportunities, including our new I Voted t-shirt. that features what appears to be an I voted sticker on you can wear every day of the year. Our podcast is edited and produced by Scott and me. Let's Pod This is a member of the Mostly Harmless Media group. And also like to thank Oak&Or for hosting us tonight. This has been tremendous. Thanks to Micah and crew for putting up with us and giving us a table right by the door. Let's Fix This is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. We want you to be involved and to care and to be equipped to engage with your government. If you've never voted, if you've never shown up, if you've never done the thing about politics, today's the day. Now's your chance. Give us a shout. Find out how you can get involved. We would love to help you help us fix this. Have a great night, everybody.